Hey, McShmoodle here. I'm really excited about today. You know why? Because I get to review one of my favorite childhood games, Lego Island 2. Lego Island 2. Alright, let's pop this in and get started. Alright. Fine. I'll do it! Time for some Jeep thrills. Quick side note here. This game was published by DSi Games. No, not that DSi Games. Although they have mostly published games for Nintendo handhelds. Like this one that I have for some reason. The developer, on the other hand, is a bit more interesting. After researching them, this was all the information I could find about them. A whopping paragraph on some random business website. They don't even have a Wikipedia entry. That must mean that Jeep Thrills was so good that GameSauce became really successful, and they just haven't gotten around to making a Wikipedia page yet. For over 6 years. Alright, so we have a standard file naming screen. All I have to do is type in my name and, press 2? No? 1? What? That just undid everything! Oh! I was supposed to hit the plus button. Because it was clearly explained that I was supposed to hit the plus button exactly nowhere! Well, now that we're off to such a fine start, I can finally select a vehicle. As you may have guessed from the title, this is an officially licensed Jeep product, meaning that every car you drive in this game is a Jeep. You've got your Liberty, your Renegade 2... Gotta say something here, but people can be really sensitive about this sort of thing. Oh, I know. Why does this music sound like it's being sung by a person who is suffering from the not-offensive to mention disability of your choice? I mean, seriously, who was the person that thought singing like that was gonna sound good? Enough of that killer soundtrack. On to the actual gameplay. This game is your standard off-road racing game, and where do I even begin? Right off the bat, every other car's way faster than I am. These controls. It's hard to convey just how bad this game controls, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. The 1 and 2 buttons on the Wiimote do the standard brake and acceleration function, but then comes the steering. Like every car game on the Wii ever, the Wiimote is used like a steering wheel to steer left and right. This wouldn't be so bad, you know, if the car didn't handle like a tank on an ice rink. To top it all off, motion controls are way too sensitive, so the controls are both slippery enough to send you careening off to one side, while the car turns around too slowly to compensate for it. That sounds like a complete contradiction, but believe me, this game found a way to make that happen. And don't even try to drift. Power sliding in this game just causes you to slide uncontrollably and slow down to a near standstill. Which is ironic considering that drifting is supposedly a technique that optimizes the amount of momentum and control you're able to maintain after you round a corner. And then there's the boost. You would think that being able to tear up the track with a burst of speed would be fun, but this game still manages to make it decidedly unfun. This is because the boost acts as little more than a slingshot to send you careening off into something. Of course, the computer-controlled Jeeps have no such problem, so my race ended like this. Really, Grandma? I tried other races, hoping they would be more forgiving, but nope! Worse still, there were only 4 tracks to choose from, and this one that isn't unlocked yet, but they still put on the menu anyways, just to spite me. With each loss, I became less invested in the race and started focusing on the many other problems in this game. Like the graphics. These are some of the ugliest Wii graphics I have ever seen. In fact, these textures look like they belong in a GameCube game. But then again, I've seen GameCube games with better graphics than this. Everything looks bland and lifeless, and the lack of proper lighting means that nighttime tracks like this one are really difficult to see in. Of course, things don't get any better when the tracks are in broad daylight.
Yep, there sure is a lot of fog today out in the bright sunshine.
And the sound, oh, the sound! The music during races isn't much better than the car select screen. I suppose that certain people might enjoy it, but for me, it's obnoxious. But I never was driven to hitting the mute button, so that's a plus. That was a plus. In case you couldn't tell from the gameplay footage, there is a lot of crashing in this game. A lot. In fact, it's so bad that the game has a reset button that puts you back on the track. Sometimes it just puts you in a random spot away from the actual racetrack. Anyways, each and every time your Jeep hits something, you hear this wonderful noise from your controller speaker. Every time. This game is so bad on so many levels. But as I was playing, after failing over and over again, something unexpected happened. I won. I actually won a race in the sloppy and broken game. All of a sudden, the game became fun.
You know what? Maybe this game isn't so bad after all. I mean, it certainly has its rough edges, but once you get around that, it can be incredibly rewarding. When you go off a jump and you land it just right, you get a super boost, it's so great. And sure, you spend half the time bumping into other cars, but that's half the fun. Maybe I misjudged this game. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna take my dignity back, show this game who's boss, and beat it once and for all.
I'm running really fast, sit down and watch me pass, doing my best to stay ahead of you. Won't let you catch me, you're gonna pass me, because I think I know a trick or two. Not gonna look back, cause I don't wanna see. Not gonna worry who is gaining on me. Race to win, race to win.
I think I've got it. I'm finally willing to overlook this game's faults and... I pondered many questions. Why do I do this? Why do I torture myself with games that cause me such pain? Is it worth it? Did I really think that I could make a difference? Does it even matter? While the sunset wallpaper slideshow made in Windows Movie Maker ended, the questions remained.
Barely started reviewing as McShmoodle, and already I've hit a game I can't even deal with. I was a good reviewer. I played all my games all the way through, but this game, I can't even get through the first few races. How am I supposed to deal with that? Unless that's the point. Oh, Jeep Thrills, you sly dog, you. For a minute there, I thought I had no way of figuring you out. You beat me. I couldn't even play through you. And for a minute there, I thought I wouldn't even be able to review you. You put this wall between me and you, I couldn't see through it. But then I realized, that's the point. Let's begin, shall we?
Jeep Thrills is a terrible game. There's no doubt about that. But I seemed to be enjoying it for a moment, when I thought I could win. But then the game stopped me with its sloppiness and its glitchy gameplay. It all came crashing down. To win a race, you have to be perfect, with even a single mistake being the difference between winning and losing. But then Jeep Thrills goes and relies on imprecise motion controls and sloppy handling. At first glance, this seems to be the result of a broken game, which it is. But it's also because of a secondary design philosophy: sloppy, messy off-road fun. I mean, look at how much effort was put into making sure that the cars would always crash into each other during races, and how they actually show damage for it. There are also ramps that send you flinging into the air before crashing down onto the ground. The game is trying to appeal to two groups. First, casual players, who play Wii games because motion controls are easy to understand for them, and they just want to crash around in a Jeep. Second, hardcore players, who want a game that really tests their skill and offers a challenging and, well, thrilling experience. You have your cheap players, and you have your thrill players. But the game fails to satisfy both groups. Play too seriously, and the game mechanics will fail you. Play too casually, and the AI will be way too hard to make races enjoyable. Now, this is not a bad design philosophy. In fact, the best Nintendo games use this. I mean, think of all the Mario games that start out super easy, but then the later levels become super challenging. They're trying to appeal to the same two groups. However, unlike Mario, this game lacks accessibility. It's too bad, really. Two very simple fixes would have made this game way more accessible to a wider audience, and ultimately would have made a better game. 1. A much smoother difficulty curve, or at the very least, adjustable difficulty. And 2. Support for more controller types, so that hardcore players could use a much more reliable control stick to steer.
But I think that even if they had been able to add those features, this game wouldn't have been successful either. And I think that GameSauce knew that too. That's why they named the game Jeep Thrills. It was an act of self-deprecation. They were trying to attract what little attention they could from the bargain bin. Well, you got someone's attention. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going back to my room and never leaving it.